Why was the world shocked by Jungkook's Calvin Klein moment? The world froze for a brief moment when Jungkook of BTS stepped into the Calvin Klein event, and the shockwaves it created were unlike anything the fashion industry had seen in years. Why did a single appearance stir such global attention? What hidden message was carried by this moment? And why did audiences from Seoul to New York describe the scene as unforgettable? The answer is not simple, and the questions it leaves behind are just as important as the moment itself. Observers were quick to note that this was not an ordinary celebrity appearance. Jungkook's presence carried the weight of an entire cultural movement, and when he walked into Calvin Klein's showcase, the air shifted. The cameras did not simply capture a face. They captured an energy that seemed to redefine what it means for a global star to represent both music and fashion at the same time. People were shocked not only because Jungkook attended, but because his impact overshadowed everything else happening around him. Was this the mark of a new era, or just a temporary storm fueled by media frenzy? Social platforms exploded within minutes, filled with videos, photos, and commentary. But behind the noise, one could sense the deeper reason why the world reacted with such intensity. Jungkook is not just a singer attending a fashion show, he is the symbol of a new global hierarchy and culture. The shocking element was the realization that his presence alone could command attention greater than the entire Calvin Klein collection being presented. Can one person truly bend the rules of an industry that has been built for decades? The surprise was amplified by how naturally he blended into the world of high fashion while still standing apart from it. Traditional fashion elites were stunned. This was not a model trained to walk the runway, yet his silent entrance and effortless styling captured more headlines than the designs themselves. Was Calvin Klein expecting this level of disruption? Or was the brand simply unprepared for the tidal wave of influence that Jungkook brought with him? The shock came not only from fans but also from critics, who admitted that the event felt less like a fashion show and more like the coronation of a cultural icon. What does this mean for the future of fashion? Did Jungkook's Calvin Klein moment signal the decline of the traditional gatekeepers of style? For decades, the industry has been controlled by designers, editors, and critics, but suddenly, one young artist from Korea seemed to shift the spotlight entirely. Some argued this was a turning point, where celebrity power fully eclipsed the authority of fashion houses. Others insisted it was a calculated strategy by Calvin Klein to tap into K-pop's global dominance. Either way, the shock was undeniable that it is worth asking. Why did the world react with such intensity compared to other celebrity appearances? Countless global stars have attended Calvin Klein shows in the past, yet none generated the same level of shock, discussion, and obsession. The answer may lie in the combination of timing, cultural power, and Jungkook's unique position as both an artist and an ambassador. His presence blurred the line between fashion marketing and cultural revolution. Was the shock a result of genuine admiration, or was it also mixed with unease from those who felt their power slipping away? The emotional reaction from fans cannot be dismissed. For millions, seeing Jungkook at Calvin Klein was not just about clothes or branding, it was about recognition. Recognition that a Korean artist had reached a level of influence once thought impossible, standing side by side with the most established names in global fashion. The shock, therefore, was personal. It was a reminder of how far K-pop has come and how the world is being forced to acknowledge it in spaces that once seemed untouchable. Yet, with every moment of admiration came whispers of controversy. Was Calvin Klein relying too heavily on Jungkook to carry their show? Did his appearance overshadow the very designs meant to be celebrated? Fashion insiders were split, some praising the boldness, others warning that the balance between brand and celebrity had tilted too far. But perhaps that is exactly why the world was shocked, because what happened that night was not controlled, not fully predictable, and not easily forgotten. The shock continues even now as debates unfold online and offline. Did Jungkook unintentionally redefine what it means to be a global ambassador? Is he the future of fashion representation? Or was this a singular, unrepeatable moment? What cannot be denied is the power of that single appearance. It was not just a man walking into an event. It was the collision of culture, commerce, and charisma on a stage where every glance mattered. And so the world remains unsettled. Why was the world shocked by Jungkook's Calvin Klein moment? Because it reminded everyone, supporters, critics, and competitors alike, that power in the cultural landscape can no longer be measured by tradition alone. It can be reshaped in an instant by presence, by symbolism, and by the ability of one figure to hold the attention of millions at once. That shock was not simply about fashion. It was about history unfolding before our eyes. The moment Jungkook appeared at the Calvin Klein event was, without question, powerful enough to dominate headlines and saturate every platform across digital media. Yet beyond the glowing admiration and shocked responses, a deeper question must be raised. Was the world witnessing an authentic cultural milestone, or merely a carefully constructed spectacle engineered to manipulate perception? Can we be certain that what unfolded before us was reality, or is it possible that the shock itself was a product designed to keep audiences captivated and distracted? Every viral clip, every trending hashtag, and every breathless commentary on platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter fueled the sensation. But how much of this coverage was spontaneous and how much was orchestrated? Did audiences truly react with unfiltered surprise, or were they guided into shock by the sheer force of media repetition? The critical issue is whether we, as consumers of global culture, are observing genuine history or falling victim to the machinery of sensationalism. If Jungkook's presence overshadowed the entire Calvin Klein showcase, was it because his aura genuinely disrupted expectations, or was it because the media elevated his role above the fashion itself? Could this moment have been amplified not by the organic reaction of millions, but by the deliberate strategy of those who benefit from keeping his image at the center of attention? And if so, should the world not pause and question its willingness to accept narratives that may be crafted rather than discovered? The line between reality and fabrication has become increasingly thin. When audiences see Jungkook commanding more attention than the models themselves, do they perceive it as an extraordinary coincidence, or as evidence of calculated planning by a brand eager to attach itself to his global influence? Was Calvin Klein truly shocked by the scale of the reaction, or had the brand already predicted, and perhaps desired, that the event would transform into a stage centered almost exclusively on Jungkook? These questions cannot be dismissed lightly. For while many fans celebrate the moment as groundbreaking, skeptics argue that what appears to be a spontaneous cultural turning point may instead be the result of tightly managed branding and media choreography. Which interpretation carries more weight? The belief in Jungkook's organic dominance, or the suspicion that the shock itself was a manufactured illusion? Should we allow ourselves to be carried away by admiration, or should we resist and demand deeper evidence before accepting the story as truth? One cannot ignore that much of the information surrounding this event originates from platforms known as both sources of inspiration and vehicles for misinformation. TikTok edits, Twitter threads, YouTube reactions all contribute to shaping a narrative that feels undeniable. But is it verifiable? How many of these viral moments reflect what truly happened on the ground? And how many are edited, reframed, or exaggerated to spark outrage, envy, or obsession? Are we, perhaps unknowingly, participants in a cycle where the boundary between fact and fiction is deliberately blurred? The responsibility, therefore, falls upon us as audiences to decide whether to accept or to question. If millions describe the world as being shocked by Jungkook's Calvin Klein moment, we must ask, were they shocked by what they saw, or by what they were told to see? Were their reactions guided by personal judgment, or by the invisible hand of media algorithms designed to amplify specific narratives? Does this moment belong to reality, or is it a performance so carefully staged that reality itself becomes indistinguishable from spectacle? And yet, the emotional intensity of the global reaction cannot be denied. Whether real or constructed, the shock resonated deeply, evoking feelings of pride, awe, and even rivalry among different audiences. But should emotional resonance be treated as evidence of authenticity? Or is it precisely because emotions are so easily manipulated that we must exercise the greatest caution? If Jungkook's appearance created a sense of unity among fans, does that unity justify ignoring the possibility of manipulation? The critical danger lies not in admiring Jungkook's impact, but in failing to question the structures that elevate it. Was this moment truly about one artist's presence at a fashion event? Or was it a carefully timed spectacle meant to reinforce the dominance of both K-pop and corporate branding in global culture? If it is the latter, then the world's shock is not simply a reaction but a result, an outcome engineered by forces that understand exactly how to trigger our attention and emotions. So we must ask ourselves, Do we believe in the authenticity of this phenomenon, or do we acknowledge the possibility that it is partly a hoax, a narrative stretched and manipulated to serve the interests of those who profit from attention? How do we distinguish between truth and performance when both are presented with equal conviction? And most importantly, what does it say about us as an audience that we are so willing to accept shock as reality without hesitation? Ultimately, the Jungkook, Calvin Klein moment stands as both an undeniable spectacle and a test of our critical thinking. It demands not only admiration but reflection. It compels us to ask, do we want to live in a world where moments of cultural significance are dictated by authenticity, or are we content to consume events engineered to keep us captivated, regardless of their truth? The shock that the world felt may have been real, but the meaning behind that shock remains uncertain, and it is up to us to decide which interpretation we will believe. If the world claims to be shocked, then the central question becomes, what exactly were they shocked by? Was it Jungkook's physical presence, his image carefully styled in Calvin Klein's signature aesthetic, or the realization that one artist could generate more power than an entire institution? When an individual appearance creates such a storm, should we interpret it as evidence of cultural transformation, or should we remain skeptical of the forces that shape such narratives? Consider the speed with which the event spread across every platform. Within minutes, countless short clips flooded TikTok, reaction videos dominated YouTube, and trending keywords overtook Twitter. Yet the raw footage of Jungkook entering the venue was remarkably limited compared to the avalanche of edits, remixes, and commentaries. This raises a critical issue. Do we remember the event itself, or only the version of the event that has been reconstructed and amplified through layers of digital manipulation? If we are only consuming reproductions, are we truly reacting to reality or to a curated illusion? The very architecture of modern media thrives on shock. Algorithms are designed to promote what captures attention most intensely, and nothing captures attention more effectively than surprise. Was the world shocked because Jungkook at Calvin Klein was inherently shocking, or because the systems delivering the content ensured that shock became the only possible reaction? When headlines screamed that the fashion world was stunned, did they describe an organic sentiment, or did they implant one into the audience's mind? The situation is further complicated by the blurred boundary between fandom and journalism. When fan accounts function as primary distributors of information, can we rely on them to distinguish fact from embellishment? Were the ecstatic posts genuine reflections of surprise, or were they deliberate attempts to magnify the scale of the moment in service of fandom pride? Should the line between enthusiasm and objectivity not be drawn more clearly if the goal is to understand the truth behind this cultural shock? There is also the matter of Calvin Klein itself.